is the Chris Abraham Show.
Hey, welcome to Season 4, Episode 4 of the Chris Abraham Show. Brand new rebranding. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Saturday. It is 10 September 2022, and I am still Chris Abraham after that sentence is over. We are in a different venue today. I am trying my best to remove the wind noise, and so I've got my recorder hidden in an upside down bucket hat, and you might hear cars going by. I'm at Penrose Square Park, which is at the Giant and Hair Cuttery, and at Penrose Square here near the Starbucks at the corner of Barton and Columbia Pike. So you might hear in the background, you probably will hear in the background, a water, what is it called? A water feature? I don't know, call it a water feature. It actually is one of those things for kids, that where the water kind of, sprays up from the ground, and kids can kind of splash through the water. I'm being distracted right now because there's a phenomenally beautiful woman walking by, so I apologize. I will reframe myself. Steady, Mr. Abraham. And no kids are here. They should be. I don't know why. There were a couple boys playing around here earlier. But so you might hear the beautiful soothing sound of lapping water. It is not a vigorous brook. It is not a river run by me. It is merely one of those accessible, playful water features where things bubble up from the ground. I'll talk in the next segment about the concept of being a digital nomad and working virtually, because I have a lot of thoughts on these, and I am getting closer to returning to that different lifestyle after having kind of rooted to a place since, I dare say, 2012. So honestly, it's been 10 years that I've lived in the same building, and we'll see. Times might be changing. I've been teasing my buddy Kay about moving to Mexico City ever since I've been there about 10-15 years ago, and now apparently it's become ruined with Americans, but that doesn't stop me. What that means is that my brain will be able to take a break, and there'll be a big expatriate community just like there was in Berlin. So I can decide if I want to have an expat experience with a bunch of brave digital nomads, or whether I want to have a legit Mexico City experience or not. I'm on day 23 of my Duolingo Spanish language learning, and it's really beginning to rekindle a lot of my memories from high school. And did I study Spanish in college? I think maybe I did. Anyway, we'll be back after the break. My buddy Mark and I have been interested in being digital nomads since college, and we were the first people that we knew who had this thing called the Ricochet, and the Ricochet was a really early wireless device that you plugged into the serial port of your early laptop in the I'd say the mid-2000s. No, I had this in when was it? I don't know. When it first came out in DC, both Mark and I got it. It was, I think it was really slow, and it was via serial port, and the only way it worked is that they hang, this company called Ricochet hung up radio antennas on street lights and on street signs and on stoplights and so forth, and it was only available in Virginia, DC, maybe not even Virginia. I think it was Northern Virginia, DC, Washington, like Seattle, and San Francisco. I think that was it. And so I remember was it 19? Let me find out. Ricochet. Modem. DC. Ricochet wireless internet service. Here we are. So I think it was pretty early. Here we go. I knew it. 1995. Metrocom was founded in 1985. The Cupertino, California, Silicon Valley, Santa Clara Valley, Bay Area. Let's see. Atlanta, Baltimore, Dallas. It does not include DC, but it was totally in DC. And I dare say that it was 1990. Gadzooks. Let's see. Technology, equipment. It's a terrible, terrible Wikipedia thing. Here we are. It was, I don't know. It was awesome. I used it from, at that point, must have been Murky Coffee or Roasters on the Hill or something like that. Used to sit outside. I was on the internet. I was involved very strongly with a company called the Meta Network and ArtsWire. I was creating proto websites. I was doing web development. I had an ADSL from a company called, I forgot what the company is called. It's the term for when you have a bar that nobody's supposed to know of, and you give a password to get into the bar. That was the provider, and that was awesome. But honestly, this Ricochet thing gave me the ability to move all around DC. I've never been as portable as Mark has been, but it allowed me to go when I was doing a virtual classroom for the Meta Network / ArtsWire on behalf of KRISA, on behalf of the school that I worked for what is it called? See, this is when, I think it might be that crazy water in my head, but Kalamazoo Valley Regional Education Authority, I was a teacher for them online via message boards and forums in the 90s, and I went out to Seattle and stayed for the entire summer. And I stayed at this place called the Tortoise Hostel, or so the Green Tortoise Hostel, the Green Turtle Hostel, and spent there for the summer. And I did coffee reviews of on a site called cafmag.com, and I did my work, and I did my teaching, and I did everything via virtual world. So when Mark and I decided to start Abraham Harrison, we set up the entire company to be perfectly 100% virtual. There's actually an article that Google did on us, because we were one of the first most active vocal users of Google Docs in the entire Google business platform. And so we had an entire company, up to 25 people, working around the world in, I think, something like 15 different countries or whatever, doing influencer marketing and online reputation management and blogger outreach and all these other things. And we were doing this virtually. So that's why it sounds like I'm being an ass, but I haven't worked in an office, aside from some random people wanting me to come into their office to work for them. I haven't worked in an office since 2006. And so, you know, I'm an only child, and I'm very much happy with my own thoughts, and I never get lonely, and I never get hungry for touch, and I never get scared about being alone, or I never get sick or tired or anything about spending time with myself. I mean, I basically have unfettered access to whatever is even better than the Alexandria Library at my beck and call, including a million different social media channels with real people on the other end, that it's never bothered me. I make a joke that might seem terrible and insulting and awful, but I didn't even notice the COVID-19 anything. I didn't notice it at all. Like, I got my vaccine, I got one, but I didn't need to. Nobody ever asked me for it. Nobody ever asked me. I used buffs instead of masks. Nobody ever asked me, unless I was going to a doctor's appointment, to put on an actual mask. It didn't affect me at all. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. I don't have. I'm not part of dance clubs or anything like this. So honestly, it was just a much easier environment. Fewer people out, always access to place at the cafe. Oh, that was another bummer. A lot of the cafes were closed and not accessible. And at that point, I just, used my phone as a tether, or worked from home. It was really very simple to me. So I drive Mark crazy that I haven't become a digital nomad. One of the reasons is that I've been very sick, and I've been very much under earning. But, things are getting better now. I'm got a lot of control of stuff. I'm, pretty much almost at the precipice of thriving, if I don't compare myself to my rich friends. And it's becoming more and more interesting as a thing to do. Whether that's buying a new motorcycle and basically living homeless, putting all my other stuff into storage and selling and giving away, like most of my pans and most of my kettlebells and that kind of thing. Or whether, I should relocate and try out Mexico City. I mean, when I was there for a wedding, I thought it was magical and majestic and amazing and interesting and curious and so forth. And even though Mexicanos feel like they're being invaded by Americanos, I dare say that would be really extremely fun to watch. be extremely fun to watch the confluence of digital nomads from around the world. It would be just like all the things I really loved about Berlin. Like, I had more fun. I mean, I had the most fun with my buddy Frank Merfort and all of his sexy, awesome artists. My upstairs neighbor and his sexy, awesome artists. But to be honest, most of my time was spent gallivanting with all the expats on that, whatever that expat message board was. Like, I partied with them, I hung out with them. Everybody was like Irish or Romanian or American or whatnot. It was pretty fun. Like, it was fun, and I never really learned a lot of German, but I feel like I'm really picking up Spanish pretty well. And I promised, I don't know when that wedding was it 2007? I attended a wedding down in Mexico City, but it was multi-generational, aristocratic, Mexican city bourgeoisie who had the wedding. So I had this amazing, like, drive from here to there experience, an experience that did not submit me to anything but, you know, artist colonies and artistic areas and tourist joints and homegrown hip places that were kind of like, you know, Mexico City versions of those amazing Cuban restaurants in Miami, you know, that are sort of for Cubanos, but also for people who want to have a Cuban restaurant experience, you know, that sort of thing. They've got a lot of that going on, and like Café du Monde in New Orleans. But I also hear that there's places in France that are dirt cheap, and of course Portugal dirt cheap, and Spain dirt cheap, and anytime you get off any place where a digital nomad probably wouldn't live, it's probably more affordable. And if I do it the American style, it'd probably be just cheap motel to cheap motel on the back of a cheap motorcycle that is big and bulky enough that cool kids don't want to steal it. And I'm even thinking about having it bespoke made so that I can carry one of my, you know, 24, 28 kilogram kettlebells as a passenger. Like, just figure out a way to fabricate you know, what they call a bitch pad for, instead of the sweet okole of a hot girl, it could be the sweet okole of a hot Eleiko kettlebell, or a hot RKC kettlebell, or a hot Kettlebells USA kettlebell, or a hot Kettlebell Kings kettlebell, or a hot Onnit kettlebell, or a hot Rogue kettlebell, etc., etc., etc. And theoretically, you know, I can always update if I want a bigger one or whatever, and then I can design the back seat for the kettlebell for a competition kettlebell, because as long as I stick with the same brand of kettlebell, like Eleiko or Kettlebell USA, they'll all fit no matter what weight. And I, you know, of course, would make sure the superstructure, I'm really tempted, guys, and I don't want to lose my man card, but I'm really tempted for to get a gold wing, full dresser gold wing from the 80s or 90s, and like making that my North American rock star rocket ship, and maybe, you know, visit Canada, maybe go down and see if I don't get kidnapped and killed on the way down to Ciudad de México, and do that sort of thing. Because, I mean, I own like 5 Lenovo X220 ThinkPads circa 2011, 2012, and I keep on buying refurbed ones off of eBay, and lately I've been installing Linux on them, and as a result I do not really ever move into a laptop. Everything's on, you know, on Google Drive or on whatever drive. Like, there's a million drives, OneDrive or On Linux, you have to rely more on Linux compatible ones, or I've got things up on, QuickNote, or it's just fantastic, right? So, and I'm pretty ephemeral when it comes to this kind of content. Like, I don't really keep it. What I do is I upload it to Anchor in this case, and then it exists, and then more likely than not, I just delete the source files. I mean, I'm not like one of those rock stars like Seth James Damore or Kofuzi or Ginger Runner or whatever, who has everything organized that they can, do Back to the Future episodes where they go back and take pictures from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. As you know, this is just free association. So, but it's really awesome. I think it's really super awesome, this digital nomad thing. I've kept my head down because I know that it messes with pricing. I mean, even when I was in Berlin, I was, better off than most, the quality of life that Berliners have based on how much they don't earn is phenomenal. You could end up partying and drinking beer and going out and going to venues and going, like, with people who are making almost no money. The quality of life is phenomenal. There's a lot of things that are just really cheap. And if that's even more profound around the world, then, so be it. I just need to make sure that I either get healthy enough to be able to get off of my medications, or find a way to, when I move to Mexico City, I said it, when I move to Mexico City or wherever, that I make sure that I find a really good cardiologist or whatever to keep track of me retail. Like, just hire someone, out of my pocket. Have insurance, of course, for catastrophic things, but to make sure that I get a cardiologist that is a concierge program or whatever, and he can keep me, updated with drogas and all that other fun stuff. So, what do you think? I mean, it's becoming more accessible than ever, and I'm feeling more and more trust with regards to my setup now. Like, 90% of all my income at present is from contracts on Upwork. And every time a contract ends, I add $20 an hour to it. I mean, I think that if I could, reliably fill 40-hour weeks with, $100, $120 an hour, I think that I could, live la digital nomad vida pretty hip and happening. I mean, it seems like at that point, the world is your oyster. Wherever you go, you can get a gym membership. Wherever you go, you can get a kettlebell or a Concept 2. It's not like it's not like there's not CrossFit, everywhere in the world now. It's not like everywhere in the world doesn't have some dude who sells, who resells Concept 2 rowing ergometers. It's the kind of thing where there's been so much globalization and normalization throughout the entire world that you can literally have your sexy South Arlington lifestyle no matter where in the world you choose. More likely in, main cities. But my friend Kay is always telling me that, when you get into the city centers of any Latin American, Central American, South American, Portuguese American, even Mexican city, there are super rich neighborhoods with services that need to be attractive for extremely rich people. Gyms that use biometrics and bring you water and towels. Like, if you can claw into the world of aristocracy as a digital nomad, then you can have whatever experience wherever you want. It probably maybe not a tenth of the cost, but a third, if not a half of a cost, and that's still 50% off. anybody would consider 50% off to be a deal, right? If my rent is $1,600 a month, that means $800 unless I upgrade. If you're from Manhattan and you're paying $4,000 for a 2-bedroom, if you're paying $2,000 or $1,000 in Ciudad de México, then that sounds pretty good, right? Anyway, this was a junk one. I'm still going to upload it because I want this to be, I don't want to be self-censored. I want to continue uploading and uploading and uploading. I'll get back to you after the break. So there's this beautiful Albanian couple that lives in the neighborhood, and they live at all the coffee shops. They live at Idito's. They live at Starbucks. They live at this cafe here with the Penrose Square park with all the French-inspired hunter green powder-coated two tops and the hunter green powder-coated cafe chairs, you know, the ones from Paris. And beautiful couple, and he chain smoked like an Albanian immigrant, and they're super cool, super sexy, super hip, super nice, a little shy. It's taken a few years for me to befriend them, and now we say hello brother, hello brother. I know he's Islamic. I think I met her sister. They have crosses. I don't know. Very confusing. Maybe it's a cross belief couple. But they had a premature baby at 4 pounds 4 ounces, and I'm 4 pounds 6 ounce premature. So I really connected them over that, and the child was in the NICU forever and ever and ever and ever, and it was very. They were very friendly. They treat me very friendly and very formally, and everything turned out well, inshallah. And so I got to meet the baby, his wife's sister, who's a spitting image of her, came in from Albania and hung out for a month. And now she needs to go back to work, but she doesn't want to go back to work. She wants to take care of her baby. So mommy is going back to Albania for 2 or 3 or 4 months to be with the larger family, to be with the in-laws, to be with the parents, to be with the sisters, and to many, it takes a village to raise a child. While daddy's going to stay here, and daddy's very sad about it, but thinks it's for the best. The reason why I bring it up is because in my head, since I'm 52, all I can think about is how sad it'll be that they'll be so far apart for months and months during the baby's, first 3 or 4 months away from daddy. I mean, with this amazing posse of people to love and adore the baby, but and then I remembered. It's not 1970. It's not April, May, or June 1970 when I was a little premature kid. If my parents had moved me to Hawaii, they did move me to Hawaii right after my birthday. So it must have been April of 1976. And honestly, you basically were on a frickin' capsule to frickin' Mars, man. You literally only had access to all you had access to. I guess you could write people a wire, but all you had access to was long distance calls, which were extremely expensive. And you have access to letter writing or postcard writing. So, and now my building is filled with immigrant families, and they're constantly on an app-based phone call, whether it's visual or on their headset, whether it's WhatsApp or Signal or whatever the cool kids are using, Telegram. It's incredible. Like, you can literally, if you invest into pro iPads, or if you invest in 2 of those Facebook screens, you can be connected to each other 24 hours a day. Basically make it as if there's an inconvenient window between you and them, with perfect audio. You could do all these things for no money. All you need to do is have access to, for literally no money. You can go to a Starbucks or use public Wi-Fi or whatever, and you can be in constant touch with someone. You just can't touch them. The only thing you can't do is touch and snuggle and kiss and love and smell and so forth. And for people who aren't me and who don't have aphantasia, all y'all really need a lot of like scratch and sniff. You need smell-o-vision. You guys just aren't okay with seeing someone or talking on the phone with them. All y'all really need the smell-o-vision experience. So even though he can constantly see his baby for hours every day and coo at them and talk to them and so forth, and don't forget, children that young don't have image permanence and can't really see anyway. He can be a constant part of his child's life, and almost in HD, with stereo, with Adobe stereo. Not Adobe. It's not Adobe. It's a Bobby with a Adobe, a Mobi stereo. And that's better than I had it, man. At 6 years old, everybody was gone. It's as if there's a lot of a difference. There's more in common, don't forget, between, I heard the thing, right? Like 50 years before 1970 was frickin' 1920. So I had I was more related to, if you will, closer to 1920 than I was 2022, or equal distance, right? So all that's very interesting, and I think it's very interesting, and there's no reason, now that you got a taste for virtual working or being a digital nomad, there's no reason not to do it. You should do it, unless, of course, you really like being part of a team. And if you're a people person, if you need validation, if you need motivation, if you're not self-motivated, if you desire positive reinforcement, if you love coach more than anybody, if you're not a self-starter, if you're the kind of person that needs a trainer, that kind of person, maybe in office is your future forever. But I think that all the possibilities now of just living in the wind is so great. I need to figure out that if I move to someplace else around the world, I know I can't move to Russia, because I know that any place that the powers that be globally hate on are hereby kicked out of the world of being able to make money from Upwork. But as long as I find a place that's perfect, can I still make my US dollars with my US bank and my US company number, my EIN, if I live anywhere else in the world? Does it really matter? Because my company lives in Delaware, am I technically always in Delaware, no matter where my employee, Chris Abraham, is? I'd really need to know that. Anyway, I didn't mean to have this entire second podcast, but I will go on to the closing remarks. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This is the Chris Abraham Show. Please forgive me if I call it Chris Cast because it's the Chris Abraham Show, nay, Chris Cast, nay. And this is how you reach me. Chris@abraham.su, chrisabraham.com, twitter.com/chrisabraham, instagram.com/chrisabraham, youtube.com/chrisabraham, facebook.com/chrisabraham, calendly.com/chrisabraham/15, +1 202 352 5051 gets you a ignored phone call. It gets you an ignored text unless you say something more than, hey, what's up? You need to give me full context. It gets me on Telegram and Signal and WhatsApp and all that stuff, I guess. What else? I don't know. Anchor.fm/Chris Abraham is the home base for this podcast. And I love you. Thanks for being here. This is really number 2 episode of the Chris Abraham Show. I personally think it sucked. It's probably really noisy and shitty, but like I said, you're going to get it all. I'm never going to edit. I'm never going to delete and start over unless there's a technical difficulty. And à tout à l'heure. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Hasta luego. Hasta mañana. Bon voyage. Bon courage. À bientôt. À demain. Aloha and mahalo nui loa.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Chris Abraham Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time.